Hey, how you guys doing today? I'm Mr. Duncan. I'm from Fort Campbell. I'm Title 10. I work for NGB. I'm the RCCC O9W Whiskey Coordinator. I've spoke with a few of you before. I know I spoke with you a time or two. So what I do is I work with enlisted soldiers transitioning from active duty who meet the requirements to be a warrant officer. And whenever they come to my office, I'll talk to them about becoming a warrant officer, and if they want to be a warrant officer, the benefits of that. So here's the definition of the warrant officer program, or O9W Whiskey program. It's a program that identifies NCOs that are qualified to become a warrant officer in the Army National Guard or the Army Reserve. Once a soldier has been identified and qualified to enter the reserve component as a warrant officer, the RCCC coordinator contracts and enlists a soldier. This contract only guarantees a soldier be vetted on a federally recognized board, which is done after they leave active duty. We can't do that while they're on active duty, by the way, to enter the warrant officer candidate school. This is a screenshot of the criteria that I select to determine whether or not the soldier actually meets the basic qualifications. This is used, I use retain. Are you familiar with retain, any of you? So retain is what the RCCC uses to basically contract soldiers into the Guard or the Reserve component. I'll go in and I'll figure out their date of rank, their ERUP code, which is their transitioning code, a 10, a 9 Golf. A 10 is a fully qualified soldier to remain on active duty. A 9 Golf is just stating that they've met their RCP. E4, 8 years, E5, 12, 14 years, something like that. Their ETS date, their rank, their GT score, and then obviously what unit they're actually in at Fort Campbell. And then the date range for their ETS date. So I would set the date range from 1 October 2017 to 1 October 2018. That'll give me a full year to go out and start talking to these guys. And that's what the report will look like, minus the red and the yellow colors. It obviously will not give you a complete list of folks that are qualified. You still have to go in and do a little bit of homework. So the guys that are red were actually found not to be qualified. So I went in, I looked, and their date of rank versus what was required is probably what disqualified them. So if their date of rank is 2016 March 23rd and they're only an E5, then obviously you know they're probably not going to have enough rated time as an NCO. So they're not qualified, even though they had the GT score and they were an E5 and that stuff. So the guys in yellow, they were qualified based off of that report. So I would email them individually and tell them that they may qualify to be a warrant officer in the reserve component. And then at that time they would either call me or email me, and we would set up an appointment and I would talk to them more about their options. So whenever they come into my office, I'm going to fill out a checklist. They talked about Apple MD in one of the classes here. It's essentially the same thing. It covers all of the felonies, GOMARs, anything like that that they've had on active duty. Some places they like to hand out Article 15s as if they were just initial counseling statements. But we'll cover that stuff. We'll cover if they're married, what their physical profile is, and what MOS it is that they're going to apply for on the warrant side. Usually it's in line with their enlisted MOS, unless they're wanting to be an aviator. Now, and I'll get their ERBs, 1059 from the last NCOES course. If they haven't completed ALC, then I'm going to ask for their SSD2 certificates. And then obviously their NCOERs. Then I'm going to review all of it and make sure that there's nothing in their NCOERs basically stating that they're not a very good soldier. And then I'll send that to NGB for them to verify what I've verified. If there is something in the NCOERs that says that they're really not that great of a soldier, then I'm going to talk to their chain of command, their commander or their first sergeant, and find out why he was rated you know, as a 2-2 or a 3-2, when his other NCOERs leading up to that one had him among the best. So there might be a conflict of, you know, personalities there. In some cases, that was it. So once we send it to NGB, they're going to verify that I did my job, and then they're going to send it to the state that they wanted to move to. And that state's going to then have 4 days. That's a date that was set between the Army Reserve and the National Guard to determine whether or not that they would accept this soldier as a 09 Whiskey applicant into their organization. For aviation, that date we know will stretch quite a bit because aviation does their own thing, and rightfully so. So once they've accepted this soldier as a 09 Whiskey applicant, they'll put the paragraph and line number on the checklist that was sent along with the ERB, the NCOERs, and that paragraph and line number will belong to the actual warrant officer position that they're going to put the soldier into, and then they'll send it back to NGB. Now that paragraph and line number, it doesn't have to be a vacant warrant officer position. It can have someone sitting in it. And NGB, once they receive that verification of acceptance, they're going to create a vacancy control number for that paragraph and line number, and then they're going to send that to myself and HRC. And HRC, once they receive that, they're going to select 09 Whiskey as the alternate MOS for that soldier and his profile. That way he can be contracted. I can't contract the soldier into a 09 Whiskey position anymore if his alternate MOS has not been changed by HRC. Will not let me. I've tried several times. Not trying to put someone in a state, but just because we were trying to contract a 09 Whiskey, and that was the reason why, because that MOS was not changed by HRC. So once the contract's completed and all those steps have been done, we're going to send the contract and all the documents that have been collected up to this point to the state WOSM, and then from that point forward, we're going to start working on getting his packet completed to be proponent approved between the state WOSM and myself. If he doesn't have enough time left on active duty to get that done, we're obviously not going to be able to do that while he's still at, you know, the installation, in my case, Fort Campbell. But if he's got 3 or 4 months left and he's not going to leave Fort Campbell to go on terminal leave 3 months before his ETS date, then we can do that. So we're going to get all of his stuff together, his resume, his Chapter 2 physical, and we're going to send all that stuff back to the WOSM, and then you can send it forward to proponent to get him proponent approved. So at this time, are there any questions about what we do, what we can't do, what we send to you guys? You don't have any questions? So I had a fit. Go ahead.
If videotaped. If the predetermination doesn't go through and the proponent doesn't approve the packet, what then happens to that soldier?
So in the contract, the soldier has 2 options. He'll either become needs of whatever state they go to, or he can leave. So when I say he becomes needs, if you have a slot for him for his MOS in the rank, that's one thing. If you don't, then he'll accept any other slot that you have for him. There you go. If you two come to the agreement that we're just going to separate, he can separate from the Army.
Are these for all warrant officer MOSs, such as 180 Alpha? Even you look for those?
Yes.
Okay.
Those guys are like unicorns.
Yeah.
Yes, and we have 5th group is at Fort Campbell, and for some reason none of those guys want to be a warrant officer. Yeah. Most of the ones that have entertained the idea are those with like 16 years active duty, and they're just looking at maybe getting a bigger retirement. Any other questions? No? Okay. That was easy. That other class was full of questions.